Hello and welcome to The Signal, WorkplaceNL's health and safety podcast. WorkplaceNL is the Workers' Compensation Board in Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada. The focus is to promote safe and healthy workplaces, provide return-to-work programs, and offer compensation to injured workers and their dependents. This series of podcasts will provide you with the latest information on how workplaces can protect the health and safety of workers. Please enjoy the show.
Mental illness is a leading cause of disability in Canada. It prevents nearly 500,000 employed Canadians from attending work each week. The cost of disability leave as a result of mental illness is about double the cost of leave due to physical illness. All in, the economic burden of mental illness in Canada is an estimated $51 billion per year, including healthcare cost, lost productivity, and reductions in health-related quality of life. This is just the cost to society and workplaces. The human cost is even greater. In any given year, 1 in 5 Canadians experience a mental illness. Since COVID-19, Stats Canada is reporting that 1 in 3 Canadians will be affected by mental illness in their lifetime, and 32% of Canadians aged 18 to 34 say they need mental health care, but they're not able to access it. There are a variety of treatments available for mental health conditions, but there is a powerful recovery tool that is often left untapped, and this is peer support. Peer support is an important tool to have in your toolbox and is a great complement to other mental health supports. Today I'm joined by Meghan Riggs. Meghan is the Communications Officer with Lifewise here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Welcome, Meghan.
Thank you, DeeAnne, for having me back to WorkplaceNL.
Thank you so much for joining me. You have so much information, so much good information to share with us that when I had the opportunity to invite you back, I jumped at it. So before I guess we get into what peer support is, can you just give us a little overview of Lifewise?
Absolutely. Lifewise is a provincial organization. It is staffed entirely by people with lived experience of mental health and addictions issues. So our staff uses that lived experience to support other individuals along their journey using trained peer support. And in addition to the advocacy work that Lifewise does, advocacy is one of our 3 pillars. We also have our frontline peer support services, as well as public education and community engagement. So we really follow those 3 pillars to provide support to the province. Our frontline peer support services includes the provincial warm line, which seems to be what we're very well known for. The provincial warm line supports on average 850 callers monthly. Along with the warm line, we also have our peer support groups weekly, our family support group monthly. We also offer one-on-one sessions to peers, and we do that all across Newfoundland and Labrador. So we have 3 office locations, 1 in Central and 1 in Western, and we have members of our Lifewise staff that are integrated and a part of many teams throughout the province. So we have staff at the Waterford Hospital on the units. We have staff at Doorways here in St. John's. We have staff that are a part of every FACT and ACT team from St. John's to Happy Valley Goose Bay. So we really try to integrate peer support and the offering of trained peer support in urban, rural, and remote areas of Newfoundland and Labrador. And then for our public education at Lifewise, we have mental health first aid trainers and assist trainers on staff. So we are able to offer monthly training sessions to community and public. We have our TAT training. So that is our Today and Tomorrow 2. It is our peer support training program that we offer. We are the only organization in the province that offers the ability to train other peer supporters in the field. So we offer that along with other presentations and different trainings, mental health in the workplace, things like that. And then, of course, our advocacy pillar, which is really making sure that the voice of lived experience is at the table when larger changes are being discussed and made on a larger scale to raise up that voice of lived experience from the staff at our organization. So in a nutshell, that's really who we are and what we do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously such an important piece of mental health supports here in the province that, I mean, I know in the beginning your organization was called Channel.
We were.
And it seems to me that the organization has really grown and has really taken on more of a leadership role, I guess, in supporting persons with mental health conditions in ways that research has shown to be effective, and that is through peer support. So what is peer support?
Peer support, DeeAnne, is when you support one another through the connection of similar experiences. And there's a little bit of a difference in natural peer support and trained peer support. So what we offer at Lifewise is trained peer support. And natural peer support, we do that in our day-to-day life very often. It's that sharing of that similar experience, the connections that someone has. I live with depression, you live with depression. We get together and we discuss what it's like to live with depression. At Lifewise, the trained peer support component of it, it's the exact same. It's still the connection of experiences that someone has and connecting on that level. One of those individuals is a trained peer supporter.
Right.
So as a peer supporter, as a trained peer supporter, we're able to dig into our toolbox, and it's a little more of a structured conversation, a structured support session, and we're able to draw upon the training that we received to make it a safe environment for us as the person offering the support as well as the person getting the support. But at its core, peer support is the connection of similar experiences amongst people supporting each other.
You know, we have some employers, workplaces that are perhaps listening to this podcast right now, and they're probably asking themselves, well, you know, okay, so this is what peer support is, but why even have it? Like, what are the benefits of having trained peer supporters in my workplace?
When we're looking at person-centered care in our mental health and addiction system, you cannot say that you offer person-centered care without also saying that you offer peer support.
Right.
So peer support is a foundational and integral part of any holistic and person-centered mental health care system.
Yeah.
So it's really putting the person and their needs at the center. And we are the experts in our own mental health. We know on a day-to-day what we need in that moment. Yeah. It's having that advocacy piece and having that self-determination to be able to say, this is what I need in this moment. So peer support allows that to happen. And when we add peer support into the picture, it creates that beautiful, well-rounded, holistic approach to supporting people. Why peer support? When you add all of that in, it allows this creation of a sense of space and belonging for somebody.
Right.
And using our lived experience, it provides the support because we come from it from experiential knowledge of living with mental health and addictions issue, and then also the tools and the training that we've been given.
Yeah.
So it enables us to build trust and hope through the validation of our experiences. And then when you add in the benefits of the trained peer support component, then comes along your ethical approach. So then there's a standardized practice. You're setting an expectation. You're minimizing confusion as to what is expected of you.
Right.
Because there is a community of practice involved with it.
Yeah.
So when you add that all together, why peer support? That is why.
Yeah.
That is why That is
Yeah.
the benefits of trained peer support.
Yeah. So what is, I mean, it really sounds like to me that there is similarities between peer support and counseling. Is there a difference between the two?
There is absolutely a difference between the two. We get that a lot. It's a common theme that we see come up from time to time, that peer support is counseling.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between peer support and counseling?
Yeah.
There are a couple pretty big differences, and peer support was never created or established as meant to be a standalone practice. It works beautifully and the best when it's used as a complementary support
Right.
to others, to create that full circle
Right.
of support around an individual. There are some key differences. Peer support, of course, the entire core of offering trained peer support is the connection between similar experiences, learning from each other, giving each other hope, sharing each other's stories.
Right.
Whereas counseling, you're probably not going to sit down with your psychologist or a counselor and they're going to unpack their life as
Right.
well. There's also peer support is a low to a medium intensity sort of support. So we don't offer a crisis intervention or crisis situations. Whereas, the more traditional forms of therapy has the room and the space to sort
Right.
of support somebody through those situations. Peer support really explores present moments with somebody, what it is the person is going through at that moment, unpacking that, and then supporting an individual in setting a goal for the future. So as a trained peer supporter, we don't sit down and unpack past traumas and struggles
Right.
and connect those to now moments and then look at a path forward.
Right.
Whereas in traditional counseling and therapies, you can do that. You can
Right.
sit, you can look back on your life, and then you can
Make those connections
Absolutely.
of how the past affects the present, which is
Absolutely.
affecting possibly your future.
We really focus on the present moments,
Yeah.
what's happening for you right now, meeting a person where they're at in the moment, and then giving them hope and setting a goal for a future
Yeah.
moment in time. And then, of course, our tools are very different in what we are capable of using. As trained peer supporters, the main tool that we take from our toolbox is ICES. So it's
Right.
an acronym. It stands for identifying an issue. So again, looking at what's happening in that moment, sharing a vision, sharing our stories,
Right.
exploring paths to go forwards, and then setting that journey. So supporting somebody in setting out the goal, sending them on their way, and then us being there to connect back, to see what worked
Right.
with that, and then adjusting and continuing that continuum of
Right.
care with somebody. Whereas counseling, they have all kinds of tools they can pull from their toolbox. They can provide, CBT, DBT, different forms of trauma counseling. There's a much broader range of things that you're able to avail of.
Right.
And that's why we say that peer support is a beautiful complement
Yeah.
to traditional therapies. Do some people just avail of trained peer support? Absolutely. Do people just avail of counseling? Absolutely. Do people use it together? Yes. It's all about what that individual, because everybody's unique, of course, feels that they need and what's going to be best for them on this particular
Right.
journey, because
Yeah.
it's so unique.
I kind of look at mental health. I mean, it's no different than physical health, as we know, but I kind of look at mental health as being a puzzle. Peer support is one of those pieces of the puzzle. I am so grateful to have that service available to me, to anybody here in the province. A little bit, I guess, about my story. When I was 21 years old, I started having panic attacks and a lot of anxiety. I had nobody to turn to. And of course, because of stigma, I did not speak about what I was going through. Years and years of turmoil, lots of struggles. And, it was actually from 21 to 33 when I finally sought some help, going to my family doctor, getting medication, having counseling. But I still didn't speak to my family, to my friends, to my coworkers because of the stigma, I guess, that was still attached to a mental illness. But once I started talking to people about, my mental health and what I do to keep myself mentally healthy, it's made me feel so much better mentally, knowing that there are people that I can reach out to that can support me, either, in a formal manner like Lifewise, the Warm Line, or just my family and friends who can support me in other ways. So we certainly have come a long way since I was 21 years old.
Absolutely.
And it's just an awesome piece of the puzzle that we put together in order to keep ourselves mentally well.
Absolutely, DeeAnne.
So now we also have people out there who are listening, and they're really interested in having some trained peer supporters at their workplace. Can you tell them what is involved in peer support training?
So the peer support training program, which is TAT, today and tomorrow too, it has a couple of different components. The first would be the in-classroom training component. So it takes just over a week to fully complete the in-classroom portion, so 6 full days in total. And you cover a wide range of topics within that week. There's 13 modules that are covered and spoke about in depth, different techniques and different tools and different methods to use to really unpack your story, when to use it effectively, language to use. All sorts of different modules are covered within that in-classroom portion. Then when you're finished your in-classroom portion, there is a written exam that you do, which you need 75% to pass. Once you complete your written exam, you can move into sort of your shadowing, I would say.
Right.
It's where you take what you've learned in the classroom and then you witness it being put into action by already trained peer supporters.
Right.
Once you complete the shadowing portion, then you move into a mentoring phase. So you are then mentored by already trained peer supporters. And you do this in one-on-one sessions.
Okay.
So you complete a minimum of 6 mentored one-on-one sessions with individuals where you are mentored in that setting. And then you meet with your mentor after the session and there's a discussion. So a minimum of 6 is required. We say a minimum. Sometimes at the end of that 6, if you're a mentor and you feel that maybe a couple more would be helpful just to get you there, then that's accommodated for. And once you're signed off on in your mentoring phase, then you go into the completion of your 36 one-on-one hours. So you must complete 36 one-on-one hour sessions in order to be considered a fully certified peer supporter. Once you do complete your hours, then you conclude with an exit interview. Altogether, it normally takes on average a year and a half to 2 years to become a fully certified peer supporter. There are options. Some people avail of the in-classroom training for a workplace or something like that, and they don't go forward with the rest of the training. That's totally an option that can be availed of if you just want that classroom component. And then, of course, there are people who do it all, and then we support them throughout that entire process.
Are there any restrictions to becoming a peer supporter?
There are a couple things to keep in mind that would be considered, I suppose, restrictions. you must have lived experience, of course, living with mental health and addictions issues in order to become a peer supporter.
Right.
So having that lived experience piece and being at a place where you're comfortable with sharing parts of your lived experience in a support setting is required to be a peer supporter. I would consider as well your level of wellness. Somebody who has done a lot of work and has received a lot of support and is a really good place in their wellness is probably in a much better place of getting this training and becoming a trained peer supporter than somebody who might just be entering this journey that they're about to go on. So really checking in and knowing your level of wellness before deciding to avail of this training I would consider a restriction. And of course time, DeeAnne.
Absolutely.
The time it takes if you really want to go on the journey to being the fully trained peer supporter, 1.5 years, 2 years. Time commitments.
That is a time that is definitely a huge factor that you would have to consider.
Absolutely.
Do you have that time to put into becoming a peer supporter? I guess the whole training aspect of it. But then I guess, do you have the time to be that peer supporter after the training is done? What are some of the challenges of being a peer supporter?
I would think, for me personally, that the biggest challenge of the work, the biggest challenge of being a trained peer supporter is waking up and making a conscious choice every day to be vulnerable in your role. In order to offer peer support to another individual, you have to look inside yourself and connect to a feeling and an experience that the person who you're supporting is going through right now. It's a conscious choice to be vulnerable. Every day you're choosing to expose yourself to things that you may have packed away long ago. But to really make that sincere, empathetic connection with a peer that you're sitting and you're supporting, that's where you must go. And when we expose ourselves to that vulnerability, especially on a daily basis, as all of our frontline peer supporters make a choice to do every day, of course then comes your burnout, your compassion fatigue, your vicarious trauma, all of those things that come along with allowing yourself to be that open to receiving somebody else's pain while connecting with your own. So it's definitely the forefront of the challenge I see with peer support.
So is there any other additional training that you can do?
There is additional training that we can avail of as peer supporters. When we finish our peer support training program, we do go through a cycle of different trainings that we will complete afterwards. So, of course, we complete our mental health first aid and our applied suicide intervention skills training. We also get together and speak towards secondary injury. So this is a presentation that really touches on the compassion fatigue, the vicarious trauma, signs to look out for, things to recognize within ourselves, ways to reach out for support if you're starting to notice some of those things. So that is offered as well.
So kind of like self-care.
Absolutely.
Having your self-care plan developed, implemented, checking back in with yourself and assessing your own level, I guess, of wellness, which is so important.
And it's also so important, DeeAnne, to have a workplace that really holds the wellness of the staff to a very high degree as well. So at Lifewise, for example, all of our frontline staff, our shift operates from 9 in the morning until midnight. So there will always be a member of management scheduled to be an on-call debrief person for any hours that a frontline staff are doing their job. So no matter what time it is during that shift, if they've just gotten off a call, there will always be the opportunity for an immediate debrief of what it is that they just experienced.
Yeah.
I think that makes a big difference when you're dealing with and hearing the sorts of things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I'm sure it can ring true for many people that do any frontline work, that the immediate ability to be able to get out and talk about what it is that you just experienced is really important. So having things like that in your workplace, although the work is hard and although there is additional trainings available, sometimes it's the little things that can be implemented within the workplace that makes the difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, we talk about that all the time with employers. It's the little things. It's the small steps that you can take every day as an employer, as a supervisor, as a worker that can make a huge difference in the mental well-being of the workplace, I guess, the workers in the workplace. Well, Meghan, thank you so much for joining me here today to tell us some very important information about peer support. And I guess anybody can reach out to you at Lifewise. What is the best way to reach out to you, or I guess anyone at Lifewise, for additional information?
You can call the provincial office, which is 753-1138, 709.
Right, that's right.
And then, of course, if anybody has any other further questions about the services that we offer or anything within the organization, or if you're looking for support yourself, give our warm line a call.
Yeah.
It's open from 10 a.m. to 12 midnights. The number is 1-855-753-2560. So you can call that number. The supporters are excellent with answering questions about our services and also our great listeners and our great supporters themselves.
Great. Well, thanks again for joining me.
Thank you so much, DeeAnne.
Thank you for joining us today. Transcripts are available to use in your workplace to increase workers' knowledge in various occupational health and safety topics. Visit WorkplaceNL.ca for more information on the services we provide to workplaces. Feel free to share the signal on social media to improve workplace health and safety everywhere. Thank you, and have a safe and healthy day.